Hey everyone, I'm Lauren. If you've watched my channel, you know that I'm a certified life coach and I focus on helping people through weight loss surgery. And I wanted to make a little video to tell you more about me because I kind of feel like, I make all these videos answering questions, but, you know, what led me down the path of weight loss surgery was a lot more than just deciding to not be overweight anymore. And it got me a lot further the path that I went on than just deciding to have surgery one day. So I want to explain it to you. It might take a little while, but I'll tell you my story and why I am who I am and why I'm here helping you and what my whole goal is. My weight problem started when I was a kid. I was diagnosed with asthma as an infant. I was in and out of the hospital with lung problems. I've had pneumonia countless times in my life. I've been hospitalized almost every year with pneumonia and weak lungs. And, growing up in the 80s and 90s, there weren't a lot of preventative treatments for asthma, so I took a lot of prednisone. It's a corticosteroid, and the number one side effect is weight gain. Now, mixing the corticosteroid with inactivity so I wouldn't exacerbate my asthma led to a lot of weight gain. From the time I was like 9 years old until my teens, I gained extreme amounts of weight. I was 200 pounds when I started high school. I was also, no, not when I started, but when I ended high school, I was 200 pounds. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but as a teenager and someone who would have typically been thin most of my life because of my body type, it was a lot of weight. But then when you're a teenager in high school and you're overweight, there's a lot of social issues that you come into contact with. No one wanted to date me in high school. Every guy that I had a crush on treated me very much like a buddy. I wasn't the most desired person, and that wasn't easy for me because I was on the inside. I was just this girly girl that really wanted to, just be like all the other girls. But what I ended up being was a very cynical and bitter and angry teenager who was obese. And so I pushed a lot of people away, and I'm not gonna lie, I was probably a bit of a bully too. I was very mean to people because I felt that if I kept people at arm's length, they couldn't hurt me. And, even though they did, and they just didn't know. When I graduated high school, I had never even had a real boyfriend. I never had a real relationship. I just was overweight, and I didn't know what to do about it. I made the mistake of starting to smoke because it was my only way to rebel against my broken lungs, which was probably the dumbest thing I could have ever done. I mean, I could have probably done something besides smoke cigarettes. I don't know, like play an instrument or, exercise. But it was the easiest way for me to say, my asthma is not going to control my life. And, of course, by that time, they had come out with a lot of preventative medications, so I could breathe, except for the fact that I started smoking. So by the time I was 18, I was overweight, I was angry, I was lonely, and food was my only solace. I loved food. It was the only thing that made me feel comfort, and it was the only thing that felt good. But then, I was gaining weight, and things were just really rough. I met my husband when I was 19. I met him on the internet. It was pretty funny. We started dating pretty quickly. We got along. He didn't mind my weight, which was nice. And, he's a great man. We got along great, and we were engaged, and while we were planning our wedding, we were surprised with a little girl. She was born when I was 21, my oldest daughter. Her name is Lillian, and yeah, she was born just after I turned 21, so no partying on my 21st for me. Lillian, when I had her, I was very young. There was a lot going on in my life. I had lost my grandma right after her birth, so I was very depressed. And again, I was on a lot of medications. I wasn't smoking at the time, but I picked it back up after my grandma passed away. I just wasn't healthy. I wasn't active, and I sat around all day just kind of being sad. And I felt sorry for myself a lot, which was a big reason why my life has been such a struggle. Like, I always felt sorry for myself. And I never finished anything I started, which was kind of my personality trait that everyone knew. Like, I was a quitter. That's what I did. I had a hard time even staying married. I married my husband when I was 21, right after my daughter was born. I even had a hard time staying with him because anytime anything got hard, I just cut tail and run. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to move home, and daddy's going to save me because daddy always saves me. But it was kind of rough, And then after a couple years of feeling just absolutely miserable, I saw a commercial on TV that said, "Do you feel blue? Do you feel like no one understands you? Are you always sad? Do you cry for no reason?" It was just one of those commercials that talked about all the symptoms of depression, and like I started bawling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. I feel all those things. And so I go on the website and I answer the questionnaire yes to almost every question. I'm like, oh, it's like they know me. So like 2 days later, I get a phone call from a doctor's office. They say that I have been pre-approved to join a trial for antidepressant medication where they were going to be comparing the effects of one medication versus the other, and I was guaranteed that there were no, I don't even know what the word is right now, placebos. There were no placebos in the study. So all I had to do was drive down to Irvine. I live in Southern California. All I had to do was drive down to Irvine and once a week have an appointment with a psychiatrist, and we would discuss my depression, and I would try out the medication. And so that's what I did. I did that because my doctors, they would always just tell me I had the baby blues, even when my daughter was almost 2. It was just the baby blues. You're not really depressed. Just get up and do something was always everyone's answer, and I was just like, okay, I'll just get up and do something. I can't even get up and take care of my kid. I play Farmville all day, And I did play Farmville. Oh no, that was after my second. So I started taking the medication, and I remember my first appointment, I went in there, and they were like asking me questions about how I felt, and I just remember bawling, crying, going like, I can't even control my tears. Everything makes me sad. I don't love my life. So I started taking the medicine, and I instantly felt relief. The antidepressants made me feel relief. Which is odd because I didn't feel better. I just didn't feel so miserable. And that was relieving. I took the medication and I did the study. I think it was 8 weeks. I did 2 months on this study. Maybe it was 12. No, it was 12 weeks that I did this study. And when it was over, I was given a prescription for a medication that I was taking. I didn't find out until afterwards, that what each medication was that I was comparing or which one I was on. But they gave me a medication, and I continued to take it. And I went back to my general practitioner, and he would just refill the prescription for me. I never really had any type of therapy. I just had antidepressants. But they never really worked all the way. And I would always have to get an increase and an increase and an increase. And then this one doesn't work anymore, so let's switch you to that one. And I was constantly bouncing around from one pill to another. I got pregnant with my second daughter when I was like 24. She was planned because I always wanted 2 kids. I wanted 2 daughters. It was kind of my dream growing up, to be a mother of 2 girls. And Delilah was born. And it was a little easier. I was older. I was married. I was in a situation where I could, at the time afford to have a baby, and everything was a little bit easier when Delilah was born. So that wasn't so bad. And then I started seeing a doctor, and we would talk about my medication, and she was like, well, you really should see a psychiatrist or at least a therapist. If you're going to be on medication, I'm going to have to require that you talk to someone too, because if you're depressed, you should really be trying to figure out how to fix the depression instead of just taking pills. And that made me angry, of course. But I decided I was going to go talk to someone, and I did. And I was also diagnosed. I was diagnosed at the time with severe depression, severe manic depressive, and with post-traumatic stress disorder stemming from a shooting that I was in. And I know I wasn't shot, but it's a long story. But I was in a shooting. I was shot at, but I ducked and it hit someone else. It hit my sister. Sorry, Jessie. She's fine. It hit her in the leg. She doesn't even have a scar anymore. And it hit another kid in the car. But long story short, I have PTSD, and that is something I still suffer with, PTSD, but I've learned some techniques to deal with it. Anyways, I had Delilah, and I was on medication, and I was seeing a therapist, and everything was fine. And then, we buy a house and we move, and, like I said, the medication, I just had to keep increasing it and increasing it to make it work. And then they added an antipsychotic medication on top of my antidepressant, and I was taking that in combination. And I was taking sleeping medication to help me sleep because I also had insomnia. So I was on a lot of different pills. Now, a lot of those antidepressants cause weight gain, and that's probably something that most people don't know is like the medication I was on at one point, Zoloft. It's on record. You can Google it. Zoloft causes like 20 pounds every 6 months. Weight gain. It's horrendous how much weight you gain when you take it. So I was putting on the pounds. I was gaining and gaining and gaining. So when I got when I met my husband, I was probably about 215 pounds. After I had my first daughter, I pushed up to 230. Then I had my second daughter, and I was like 250, 255. Then I started taking the medication, and I skyrocketed to 280. I was probably 285 at my heaviest. I'm not sure though, because I didn't own a scale and I refused to and I would tell him not to tell me at the doctor. Like, I did not want to know what my weight was. I knew I couldn't fit through things. I couldn't sit in certain chairs. I knew that I was a size 22, 24. I just didn't want the number, because without the number, it wasn't real. It wasn't really that big. Then my sister got married, and she had these really cool convertible dresses where everyone bought the same dress, but you could wear it in a different way. And my dress, it was like they had a size for everyone. But the dress I had to get to fit into was the second to largest size that the company made. And this is the dress that was supposed to fit up to size 30. I had to get the second to largest size, and that was devastating for me. And I had to special order it to get it in the color, and I had to special order a tank top to go underneath because I was so big that I couldn't even wear the dress as it was. It was really devastating to try to order a formal gown at that size. And it was really hot the day she got married. She got married on like July 2nd. Her wedding was like July 2nd. Well, it was July 2nd. It was hot. It was like 100 degrees, and I was sweating. It was almost 300 pounds, pouring sweat, miserable, sad. Felt horrible, so I drank a lot. And I'm sorry again, Jessie. I was intoxicated at your wedding. But that was the day when I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I feel horrible. Now, another thing happened in my life that this is the hardest thing for me to talk about. The pills that I was on made me sleep really, really hard. I would not wake up in the middle of the night for anything. And my youngest, my baby, Delilah, was about 15 months old at the time. She was sleeping in her crib, in her room. And I don't remember it happening, but apparently sometime in the night she started crying. So I assume that I went in her room and I got her and I brought her back in my room. Again, I don't remember doing this because it would happen a lot. I would sleepwalk, or I would just respond as a mom, just to get her and bring her in my bed. What I do remember is waking up that morning to get my older daughter ready for school. She was in kindergarten, and Delilah was on my bed holding an empty bottle of pills. And I didn't think anything of it because I was kind of a slob at the time and I didn't throw a lot of things away. So I figured she had grabbed the empty bottle off the headboard because I kept all my pills in my bedroom. So we got up and I got my daughter ready for school, and Delilah just didn't look good. She was kind of lethargic. I just thought she was tired, maybe she didn't feel good. I checked to see if she had a fever and she didn't. So I get Lillian in the car and I take her to school, and I remember getting Delilah out of the car seat and carrying her over to drop Lillian off, and typically she was a runner. She started walking when she was like 8 months old, so she wanted to walk all the time. It was like a week or right before she was 9 months old. So she would always walk her sister to the gate, but that day she didn't want to wake up. And I remember I had a friend who had mentioned that, you know, she didn't look good. She just looked miserable that day. And I was like, yeah, there's something wrong. And then she threw up, and it was white. And I freaked out, and I put her in the car, and I drove back home. Again, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. So I get home, which was just up the street, and she wasn't waking up in the car. So I kind of freaked out, and I ran in the house, and I ran into my room where the pill bottle was, and I started searching my bed, and there were 3 pills on the bed. I had 19 in my new, I had 19 pills left of the antipsychotics, and there were 3 left on my bed. So they weren't even low dose either. They were pretty high dose. I assumed that she took 16. And I immediately ran and I put her back in the car, and I called a friend of mine and I said, I'm going to the hospital right now. And I remember she kept saying, pull over and call an ambulance. And I was like, no, I am getting her to this hospital faster than an ambulance is going to get to me. I'm getting her there now. And I get to the hospital, and by that time it had been a couple hours since I woke up. It had been about 2 hours since I woke up. The hospital didn't know what to do. They called the Poison Control Center. So word of advice, should you ever have this situation happen, call Poison Control immediately. They will tell you what to do. They called Poison Control. They were told there was nothing they could do, but that the medication that my daughter had taken was not life-threatening. If her organs did not shut down within the first couple hours, then she would be fine. So it was decided by the doctor to monitor her for 8 hours and then send her home if nothing changed. Nothing changed except for the fact she wouldn't wake up. She was just asleep. Like, we could wake her up, she'd go right back to sleep, and she was just miserable. My daughter was fine eventually, but it took a long time for her to become herself again. An antipsychotic affects your brain functioning, and it affected her in ways that I can't even explain. There was no comforting, there was no snuggling, there was no more hugging. She quit talking, she went back to bottles. She quit being interested in potty training. Basically, my daughter reverted back to an infant who just was not interested in anything and didn't want anything to do with me. She slept more than she was awake. When she was awake, she was screaming. It was hell. It was absolute hell. And I remember feeling like the worst person on the planet. You know, even my family was constantly bringing it up, like, you know, don't leave your pills out. And I was like, I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I must not have put the cap on all the way. I thought it was up high enough. I didn't even realize what was happening. You know, and nothing I said would ever make it better. But what I decided to do instead was to change my life. Watching my daughter go through that made me want to never have to take another antidepressant ever again. So that's what began this huge journey of changing my life and wanting to be a better person. I started reading about being happy and learning to make my life what I wanted it to be, and learning how to be the person I always wanted to be. It was amazing, the things that I learned, the books that I read, and the programs that I followed to change my own life without medication, because every doctor or therapist or psychiatrist I saw just wanted to push medication on me, and I didn't want that anymore. So I did it myself. I fought to become a better person, and I did. I have not taken an antidepressant in almost 5 years. It's been over 4 years since I've taken an antidepressant. Now, I fought to be this happy person, and I became this happy person, but then I looked in the mirror and I was still the 300-pound angry bully that hated her life. And I didn't want to be that person anymore. I didn't want to be. I was holding on to this weight that I didn't need anymore. And, I started dieting and I started exercising and I started changing my life. And, the weight was slowly coming off, but it wasn't fast enough. I needed to change completely and I needed to do it quickly. Obviously, the process of having weight loss surgery is not quick, but it's something I needed to do. I wanted to do it. It felt like this permanent lifestyle change that I needed to become the person I wanted to be. And I talk about that in my first video. I talk about, that desire to be who I was on the inside and not who I was on the outside. So I chose to have weight loss surgery, and that's what I did. I had the vertical gastric sleeve in 2012, about a year after I had stopped taking antidepressants. So since then, I've lost the weight, and I don't take antidepressants, and I don't smoke, and I don't drink, and I don't do anything like that. And I've learned how to be happy, and I know what it takes to be a positive, thoughtful, inspiring, happy person. Like, I know how to wake up in the morning and say, it's going to be a good day. And when shit hits the fan, because sometimes it does, I've learned how to get through that. And I've learned coping skills that I never understood I had before. And I learned how to improve my self-esteem and learned how to self-care. Those are things that when you haven't learned those things, it easily leads you to a really depressed state. And obesity, it's just a side effect of so many different things. And for me, obesity was a side effect of my inability to love myself and my inability to care about myself and my inability to take control of my life. When I learned how to take control of my life, I lost the weight, I lost sadness, I went back to school, which was something that I dropped out of 4 different colleges. In my life. Now I'm in my 5th. I'm a straight A student, and I'm going to graduate cum laude with like straight A's. I don't even know this person I am anymore. The person I am today, I couldn't even imagine being, because I busted my ass to become this person. I love who I am because I fought to become who I am. I fought depression. I fought the pills. I fought my sick daughter, who obviously she's 6 now and she's crazy and hilarious. And, you wouldn't even know, aside from the fact that sometimes she's kind of emotional, but I think that also might be because she's a Gemini. She's very much a Gemini. But you wouldn't even know that my daughter went through that horrific experience. We all bounce back. But the thing is, you have to fight. You can't just sit back and take life's punches and just let them knock you down. You can't stay down. I like to talk about how, we have options in life. I say that life is like the ocean, and you can sit on the shore and watch it happen and be sad that you're not involved. You can jump in and ride the waves and have a blast. And, when you do that, sometimes you fall off your board and you start sinking, but you gotta swim. You've got to swim and get back up. You get bucked off a horse, you gotta get right back on. You fall off your board, you gotta get back on. Like, that was what my dad taught me my whole life, and I never applied it. I never realized that I was in charge of my own happiness. Weight loss surgery was a very small part of a very big life change for me. So when you guys ask me these questions about, like, how do I keep the weight off? Or how do I make this work? How do I lose as much weight as you did? How do I do this? I try to give you the best answer I can in a short amount of time, but to be completely honest, my answer is change who you are as a person. And I know it's not easy. I did it myself. I know it's not easy. But rock bottom is not pretty. My rock bottom could have cost me my daughter. I can't explain enough how important it is to decide not to be that person anymore and to decide to become something better. You know, I don't know why you've gained the weight. I don't know why you are where you are right now. And I'm sure you have a story too. And, you know, you've taken 25 minutes to hear my story, which is amazing. But your story is just as amazing. Just remember that once you make this change, you have to make the whole change. Don't go back to who that person was. Change who you are. Imagine the person you always wanted to be and act like you are that person. And that's my secret. I pretended to be the happiest woman alive until I became her. And then I started teaching other people how to be happy, which makes me even happier. And now I want you to understand that life gets better. It does. But the only way it gets better is if you make the effort to make it better. It's you. There's no secret. There's no shortcuts. There's no hijacking anything. You've got to do it yourself. You have to figure out what it is you want and what kind of person would take that. You have to figure out how. That's the hard part, is figuring out where you want to go. So just envision the biggest, best thing you've ever wanted in life and just act like you're that person. You know, I'm not a Christian, but I love the saying, what would Jesus do? I actually use that saying all the time, like, what would Jesus do? He was supposedly like this amazing man who loved everyone and thought the best of every situation and had all this faith and hope in the world. What would Jesus do? You know, that's what I'm going to do. And he's kind of my idol, just like, you know, Mother Teresa or Gandhi or the Dalai Lama. What would they do? That's kind of how I want to live my life. So, I think, what would that person do? And I do it. And doing it over and over and over has made me a happier person. Thank you for watching this video and taking some time to get to know me better and to finding out my story. I am a certified life coach. I became a certified life coach through the world's biggest gym. It's actually, I think it's just Carl Massey. If you look up Carl Massey, he personally trained me himself to be a life coach. He was my coach, and then he trained me, and he's an amazing man. He's an amazing businessman if you want a coach to help you with your business too. He basically lit a fire under my ass and got me going. He's great, so look him up. I am a certified life coach, and I can help you should you want some help. And, you know, we can get your life on the track it wants to be. You know, I'm not just here to help you through weight loss surgery. I'm here to help you become that person you want to be. Because that's all that matters. Like, the scale is just a number. I don't even look at I don't even own a scale now. I measure by my size in my pants. But it's not about the number. It's about being happy, and it's about being healthy, and it's about making choices that are good for who you are. And if you want to learn how to be happy, I can teach you that, because I figured it out on my own. I wish you the best. Thank you for watching this super long video, and I look forward to hearing from you. Send me an email. Go to my website, Life Coach Lauren, and you can send it to lifecoachlauren.com. You go there, or lauren@lifecoachlauren.com. You can send me an email there. Go to my Facebook. Send me a message on here. I don't check them that much, but you can send them, and eventually I'll get it. And I will talk to you soon. All right. Thank you so much.